And then on Monday, when we do we will be done with our respiratory system on Monday for sure. I want you to do spirometry and I want you to open the cat. So we have a lot of things to do for our lab on Monday. We're going to open up the cat. I'm going to give you straws. I want you to blow. And you're going to look for you know how you do endotracheal and intubation? So I want you to do the same with the cat. Look for the epiglottis, where you're going to yank it out so it won't be hard. In the patients, you're going to hyperextend their neck, but with our cat, you're going to just yank that out. Well, be gentle. And then you put the straw and blow. And then I want you to take out the straw and blow through the esophagus. You see, sometimes that's how we assess. Did we insert it in the wrong tube or wrong pipe because they are so close? When you blow and you insert it in the esophagus, you see the stomach expand. Then, if you went in the right through the epiglottis, you see the lungs expand. It's really very nice, okay? So, today we're going to do introduction. So don't forget on Monday next week, wear your shoes, closed toes. We're going to open up our cat. Be careful, by the way. Be gentle in trying to yank out the larynx, the trachea, because if you poke a hole there, it won't be able to blow air into the lungs. So the respiratory system is the body system where we get our oxygen, our gases, okay? So look at this one. You're getting to that point where I'm going to ask you to make your drawing, okay? So don't forget. See, I want you to appreciate this one, everybody. You see, you inhale. So what we inhale is your gas, your oxygen, and look at this spongy structure here is your lungs. This red and blue, of course, blood vessels. So your blood vessels just go there to pick up the air that we inhale. See, it picks up the air. Sorry, not the air, but the oxygen. Then you unload the oxygen there, and then the blood goes to the heart. The heart pumps it, so you're pumping oxygen. But where did you get the air, the oxygen from your lungs? So we're going to look at the respiratory system, but this functions right here, the main function for gas exchange regulation, this one right here, this gas exchange is really carried out by your lungs. Okay, so that's one way of regulating blood pH, also carried out by the lungs. Blood pH, you remember, what do you blow off? What do you get rid of? CO2. When carbon dioxide combines with water, carbon dioxide plus water through the enzyme carbonic anhydrase, remember in your worksheet, you produce carbonic acid, which is acidic. So we expose our body to acid, and that's not good. So we want to blow off that carbon dioxide. That's how we regulate the blood pH. The other organs, your vocal cords, which is in your larynx, that produces your voice. You know that if you have laryngitis, sometimes you lose your voice. And so that helps to smell. Your nose is part of your respiratory system. Yes, respiratory system. And to regulate the temperature. Okay? So I want you to look at these structures right here. These are the organs of your respiratory system. The air exchange is carried out primarily by your lungs. The job of all of these organs is to ensure delivery of air right here. It's your blood, right? It's your blood that's waiting to receive that oxygen. It's your blood that wants to get rid of the carbon dioxide. This is the way to do it. But then where is the oxygen? It's out here. I have to let it in. So to let it in, I have these structures. To appreciate these structures, I want to highlight a few things. and it will help us in our study of respiration on Monday. Before I forget, a lot of books always make sure to differentiate this for your when you start practicing out there. You will be I'm sure you will get diagnosis of URI, and then if it's no longer a URI, they're very specific. If it's not URI, you will get a diagnosis of laryngitis, bronchitis, so you know it's below. URI is just above the larynx. I really don't. This one I don't usually ask questions as far as the test is concerned, but you should have. You have a diagnosis of URI, it's only up to the larynx. L for lower. So beginning with the larynx, now you have a specific diagnosis. You see, you will say you get the diagnosis of laryngitis, bronchitis, pneumonia. But if it's just up here, it's just with the pharynx up to the nose, it's just a URI. It's not as um, problematic as a lower respiratory infection. Before we appreciate our respiratory tract, the function, I want you to know a few things about the respiratory system. Number one, hyaline cartilage. And by the way, just to let you know, in your test on the respiratory system, you need to know these uh, pointers. You will be asked, okay? You remember what hyaline cartilage is, right, from Bio 241? What do you think is the purpose of the hyaline cartilage in your respiratory tree? Is open. Very good. Hyaline cartilage is semi-solid, right? Your nose, you see hyaline cartilage there. Right here, you feel that? That's your trachea over here, the ring of hyaline cartilage. The job is to make sure that your airways are always open. There's no chance for collapse. Wherever there is hyaline cartilage in your respiratory tree. Why is that important? Because I don't see air having hands to push themselves into the lungs. You don't see them having hands to push it open. You don't, right? So we want to let the air molecules in. You have to keep it open. And that's, I see an open airway all the way. You need to be familiar with the organs of the respiratory system. You start with the nose, right? Then you have the pharynx, also known as your throat. You should know that the pharynx is a shared organ between what? Respiratory and the throat. Digestive system, right? You swallow. The throat is superior to your esophagus. So the pharynx can contain air or food. Okay? And then after the pharynx, the larynx, the air goes down the larynx, then your trachea. You see, look at this. Hyaline cartilage to keep it open. I feel it here. It's open. Then you see, right and left bronchus open. But I want you to look at this part right here. Okay? You need to use your lab manual here to help you. This one, the respiratory system has very nice pictures on the sorry, the lab manual has very nice pictures on the respiratory system. I want you to take a look at this last portion of the respiratory tree. Here, look at this part right here. Look at. Do you notice? This is the terminal bronchiole. You see right up here. You know that anything that ends with IOLE, it's just a smaller one, right? Artery, arteriole. So bronchus or bronchi for two, and then when it becomes smaller, bronchiole. What do you notice as it goes down right here? The hyaline starts breaking up. You see that? The hyaline cartilage. And do you see right here, in the most terminal part of the bronchioles? Absent. No more hyaline cartilage in the terminal bronchioles. Okay? So when you get to the terminal bronchioles, absent hyaline cartilage, what's there is just smooth muscle. That's part of what makes up the wall of the terminal bronchiole. What is that telling me? There's potential for collapse there in the terminal bronchiole. And what do you think? If there's collapsed airways right here in the terminal, this one right here, these gray clusters, that's your lungs. That's the alveolus or the air sacs. So this is, if this, look at this picture. This is the air sac. The air sac is what makes up all of the lungs. So I don't, where's my respiratory system? Anyway, you see this one right here? Right here. See? This one, the terminal bronchus is in terminal, no more cartilage, just smooth muscle. And it just ends into a cluster of grapes. See? That's it, just a bunch of grapes. So the respiratory system is like a cul-de-sac, right? When you go to a neighborhood, it says no exit. You have to go, turn around, exit the way you entered. That's the same thing with your respiratory system. You see? I'm just going to maybe draw just one. But it's a bunch of grapes. This is what you call the alveolus or the air sac. So all of these alveolus make up the lungs. You understand so far? So look at this, see? It's just, so what happens is when we inhale the air, see? It's like shh, and then round trip. So when it goes in, the oxygen goes here, then the carbon dioxide jumps here, and then it exits. You exhale carbon dioxide. You understand? It's just going through one door, make a round trip, exit the same door. There's no other door. It's closed. This whole room here is called the air sac, the alveolus. You understand? Okay? But if we look at, so here, no problem, open, 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 open. When you get to this terminal bronchiole over here, we saw how anatomically there's potential for collapse because there is no more cartilage. It is just smooth muscle, you see? And that's the scare with this one. There's really a potential for collapse. Like with severe anaphylactic shock, they will come in with difficulty breathing. Why is there difficulty breathing? Because any kind of allergy or shock triggers constriction, right? So where is the constriction when they say bronchoconstriction? It's impossible. It's over here. Because here, the presence of that cartilage makes that not possible. Here is where it will constrict. And that's smooth muscle. That's why we give beta blockers or the asthma. The asthma medications are mainly beta blockers to relax and open up these airways to allow the air to get in. Will you die if there is no air that gets in? Yes, of course. Can you tell me, is there any other way to let air in? Can you think? How? Oh yeah, but no. But if this is black, do you think there's any other? No, no. You can't introduce air through your blood vessel. You can't, right? No. So that's why you will die if this is black. So it's important to keep it open. If you can do any other way, maybe through your to your stomach, maybe no problem. But this is a very big emergency. Okay? You understand it? Because I'm going to ask you that in the test. Identify. So you say trachea, let's say. Trachea. And here, the airways are always open, true or false. Always open, true or false. Normally, yes. Okay? And then you need to know the different features. Now, when you get to the alveolus, which is the air sac, this alveolus, when you get to the alveolus, oh no, we go first up here. We're going to look at the epithelium now. So, the lining epithelium, do you remember? Pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Do you remember this? This is very important. The fact that your airways are always open and it's big. It is very possible that you're inhaling germs all the time. Do you agree? Right? It's big. So this pseudostratified cilia, and look at it. Some of your columnar cells make mucus to make it always slimy. Okay, and that mucus coats from up down, and to make sure if there's germs they get slowed down, they get trapped right there, and then the cilia brushes it up. So every time we swallow, we're actually swallowing some phlegm. But when we cigarette smoke will damage that, so they're no longer able to brush it up. So this one, it gets coated by the bacteria, but you have to cough it up now. So people, you will, it's called smoker's cough. We talked about this already. So don't forget that. Now, as you get down, all the way down to the alveolus, so just think of the lungs as a bunch of grapes, right? That's the air sacs. When you get down to the alveolus right here, it is no longer pseudostratified ciliated columnar. You're going to look at the slide of the lungs. It looks like this. This is your air sacs. I can tell. See, look at this one and that one. I know this is the terminal bronchiole. There's smooth muscle. You see that thicker? So that's the terminal bronchiole, and it ended into the cluster of grapes. So these are my air sacs, the alveolus. You notice that the alveolus, when you get to the alveolus, the lining epithelium is the simplest one and the thinnest one. Simple squamous epithelium. In the alveolus. Why is that very important? Because that's where air exchange happens. Look at the alveolus. Look at this. It's very vascular. Capillaries are there to pick up what? Carbon dioxide. Oxygen. And to get rid of carbon dioxide. So I'm going to highlight this more right here. See? There's your air sacs, that's your blood flow. You don't forget you're going to draw. Did you notice that every part of the body, what links them all is your cardiovascular system? That's like your personal transit system. See? The carbon dioxide is going to jump out here. And that's why it's very important. This is very important to just be one layer, simple squamous epithelium. What else do I see here? I see here, I don't know if you see, right here, this is not blood vessel, but those are elastic fibers. So, the alveolus is just simple squamous epithelium, but it's also coated by lots of elastic fibers. Remember elastic fibers right here? When you inhale, look at, when you inhale, your chest is expanding, which means my alveolus is expanding. Okay? That elastic recoil of the elastic fibers actually helps us to breathe out. Don't forget that. We're going to talk about the mechanics of breathing. It's breathing involves pressure. The movement of it, in other words, breathing follows the law of diffusion, moving from an area of high concentration to low concentration. Okay? Like I said, air does not have legs or feet to walk from here to here. We have to bring it in. How does it move in? It just follows difference in concentration. But because we're talking about air, we differentiate, we substitute the word diffusion with pressure gradient. So the reason I inhale is because the pressure out here becomes greater than the pressure here. I created that, and I'll show you how. So I inhale. Air will just move inside. How did it move? The pressure here becomes greater than the pressure inside my lungs. Have you heard of the atmospheric pressure, right? Is 760. So normally, if 760 here and 760 here in my lungs, no movement. I have to create a lower pressure here. And I can do that. We're going to talk about that. So then air moves in. So how I do that, part of the reasons I'm able to do that, I'm able to expand my lungs. Now I inhaled all of that air. Now I have to create a greater pressure here. How do I do that? Don't you think all of the air that you just inhaled right here, you expand that. And then the elastic recoil will squeeze all of the air that you just inhaled. Won't that increase the pressure inside now? You agree? Do you understand? You squeeze. So you just inhaled all of the air. Now the elastic recoil will squeeze all of the air. So now you increase the pressure in your lungs. That's how you breathe out. Among other factors that will help. We're going to talk about that. But here is where cigarette smoke again is. I'm always nagging about cigarette smoke, right? I told you everywhere there's elastic fibers. You see the damage on your wrinkles. We see the effect on our blood vessels. Now we see the effect in our lungs. There's elastic fibers where? In the alveolus. So you notice, I want you to remember this, is going to be asked in your test. Emphysema is a very common problem among smokers. It can also be a genetic defect on antitrypsin. But anyway, what happens with smokers? Damage what again? Elastic fibers. Here, where did we see elastic fibers? Over here. So, with smokers, they won't have any problem inhaling. It's because in addition, you will see, it's very easy to inhale air. But you notice people with emphysema, like my mother has emphysema, you will notice they will have problem exhaling because they lost that elastic recoil. So they inhale all of that air. Now they have to be labored in trying to get rid of that air. So they go, they're trying to blow that air out. You understand? I'm going to ask you that in the test. Emphysema initially will affect, in general, will always affect inhalation or exhalation. You're going to write exhalation. Before I forget, you need to know these terms. Ventilation. Ventilation means breathing. And ventilation involves two parts. Inhalation. Another term for inhalation is what? Inspiration, right? So if I ask you, please define inspiration, do not ever write the act of being inspired because people write it down and it just drives me nuts to be inspired. We're talking about the respiratory system, okay? And then the other part of ventilation is exhalation or expiration. And you know what people write, right? When I ask them to define expiration, what do they write? The act of dying. So don't write the act of dying, okay? This is the part where you get rid of air. So these are two parts of ventilation. This is what we're going to study with the lungs, okay? Okay. Next, surfactant. Surfactant. Okay. So, let's look at our lungs, the location of the lungs right there. Have you heard of surfactant? Okay. So here is, surfactant is a protein chemical that decreases surface tension. What it does is it decreases surface tension. Surface tension is the attraction of water molecules to each other, right? Like that's why insects are able to crawl on water or walk on water, okay? And your water molecules, you see water, they're attracted to each other. So I want you to look at this one right here. There's your lungs. You remember the lungs and the heart, they share the thoracic cavity. The specific cavity occupied by the lungs is called pleural cavity. For the heart, it's called pericardial cavity. The lungs is also covered by membranes. Same with the heart, you call the membranes of the heart pericardium. For the lungs, it's called pleura. Pleura, okay? And the pleura has two layers. An inner layer, always, the inner is always called visceral, and the outer layer is called parietal. So there's two layers of pleura. So the visceral pleura is stuck to the substance of the lung. Can you picture? And the parietal pleura is actually stuck to the rib cage over here. So I'm going to draw right here. This is the visceral pleura, this one right here. And this is the parietal pleura that's stuck to the rib cage. Okay? In between the two, there's fluid there called pleural fluid. So here, in your between the two pleura, I want high surface tension. You understand? I want the surface tension here to be high. If the surface tension here is high, what that means is these two membranes are stuck together. Can you picture? Because of the high surface tension, these two membranes are stuck together. Imagine two pieces of paper stuck together by when it's wet, right? It's very hard to separate them. That's the same thing here. Are you following? Okay? So, look at, because the visceral pleura is stuck to the lungs, and the parietal is stuck to your rib cage. When you inhale, don't you expand your ribs, right? You're expanding your ribs. So like an accordion, because the two pleura are stuck together, when I expand my ribs, can you picture? I'm also going to expand my lungs that way. You understand? So when I expand my lungs, I open up my airways to receive all of that air. Okay? So what do we want here? High or low surface tension? High, very good. We want them to be stuck. The opposite is for your alveolus right here, your airways right here. We're now down to the lungs, to the alveolus. So I'm looking at the terminal, the cul-de-sac right here, okay? There, this one. Here, I want low surface tension, okay? So this one is made up of cells, simple squamous epithelial cells. The alveolus here, there are two types of simple squamous epithelial cells. The type 1, they're all simple squamous epithelium, okay? Just depending on their job, they're called type 1 and type 2. The type 1 simple squamous cells is actually the one where gas exchange is going on. And then the type 2, they don't function in exchange. What they do is they make surfactant. Are you following so far? Okay. Yeah, type 1, yeah, alveolar cells, and type 2 alveolar cells. So we're just talking about this one, all these cells right here, the cells of the alveolus, they're all simple squamous epithelium. Some of them, the one that's, you see that's next to this red structure, which are your capillaries, I know that they're type 1 because that's where gas exchange happens. But the other cells where they're not close to a capillary, I know that they are type 2. What they're doing is they're making surfactant. What's the function of that surfactant? The surfactant decreases the surface tension. Right here, see? There's blood vessel, there's the capillary. So then I suspect this is type 1, you understand? Then this one, I don't see any capillary. What they must be doing is they must be making surfactant. So they are called type 2, okay? And what surfactant does is it coats the entire alveolus. It coats it. Why? You know that the alveolus is moist. Where did it get its moistness? By gravity. From your pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium, remember making mucus, which has water. So it drip, 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 okay? So the alveolus normally is moist, mainly water. Can you imagine if the water molecules saw each other, but they will be attracted, leading to collapse of your lungs, called atelectasis. If the lungs collapse, do you think there will be air exchange? No. That's why we need that surfactant. Do you understand? One more time. In the alveolus, do you want high or low surface tension? Low. You want low here. Remember, surface tension is the attraction of water molecules to one another. If they get attracted, what will happen to the alveolus? It will collapse. So I want it low. So how do I prevent the water molecules from seeing each other? You coat it so they don't see each other. What is that coat called? It's called surfactant. What made surfactant are these cells, the type 2 alveolar cells. This surfactant is made by your type 2 alveolar cells towards the third trimester of pregnancy. Towards the end, maybe beginning the 6th month of pregnancy, 24, 25 weeks of pregnancy, that's when it starts making surfactant. That's why premature babies are at risk for, have you heard of respiratory distress syndrome? Respiratory distress syndrome. This is common among premature babies because premature babies did not make surfactant yet. Their lungs didn't make surfactant yet. Used to be a big problem. I remember when I was rotating in the pediatrics in the Philippines, it's a poor country. So what we would do is we would do ambubag. Have you heard of an ambubag? Which is, so we would take turns. When a premature baby is born, we take turns 24/7. We're pumping air into the baby's lungs. When I'm tired, the next one will take over, but we can't because it's a poor country. We gotta make sure that the lungs do not collapse at atelectasis because it's very hard to open that again. Just think, two pieces of paper stuck together by water, it's very hard to separate it, right? That's the same thing here. You understand? Okay? So we want to keep it open. That's a good solution. Surfactant. It is a protein chemical that is coated here. So we want high or low surface tension right here in the pleura? High. And then in your lungs? Low. I'm going to ask you that in the test. Okay? What lowers it here is the surfactant. You understand the term atelectasis? You understand respiratory distress syndrome? Now it's no big deal, right? Because now they have synthetic surfactant. Premature babies, no big deal. They just inject that to the baby and the baby is okay. You don't have to do ambibagging 24/7. No need in this country. Okay? Okay. So now, you have any questions so far? So here, look at this one. You see, that's why it's very important to breathe. You see the diaphragm? When we remember the fusion of the pericardium, you inhale, exhale, it helps in the health of your heart and also your lungs. Okay. Lastly, before I let you go, I'm just going to talk very briefly about the mechanics. No. Yes, how air enters. So let's look at, we're going to talk about respiratory physiology on Monday. Let's now inhale. So when you inhale, air goes to your nose. What do you think is going on with the air in your nose? Can you give me functions of your nose? It moistens the air, humidifies it. What else? Very good. The what? It filters, yes, it filters cockroaches, so it doesn't go past your nose, right? But it does filter lots of nose hairs there. It filters large particles. Don't you think it also warms the air? The nose is very bloody. Have you ever experienced epistaxis, which is nose bleed? Because the air is very bloody. Lots of blood supply, warm to warm the cold air or the very hot air. You want to adjust it because look at it's going to go enter directly to your lungs. So even if it's very crisp cold air, when you get to your nose, it just warms it. Also, the nose is for smelling, isn't it? Remember, your olfactory epithelium is there. Okay. Now let's trace. We know that now. The air goes down to your pharynx, which is also your throat. Now here in your pharynx, that's why you can also breathe through your mouth. You see, air can also go to your mouth that way. Now, the next is it should go down to your larynx. Very important for you to appreciate this epiglottis. So the larynx is nothing but a cartilaginous organ of your respiratory system. And the job of the larynx, it contains your vocal cords for your voice. In addition, you see this flap here? I want you to look for that in your cat. It's a shoehorn flap. That's what we're going to look for when we do our endotracheal intubation on Monday. This is called the epiglottis. This is a part of your larynx, one of the big cartilages of your larynx. The larynx has three big cartilages: the epiglottis, the thyroid cartilage, and the cricoid cartilage right here. There's your epiglottis, the shoehorn. Then the thyroid, this is the Adam's apple, the big one that you feel here. That's right up here. I feel it. And then the cricoid cartilage. So the function of the larynx to separate food from air. It separates the food from the air. Let's look at this larynx right here. See? So when you're inhaling air, it goes down. The epiglottis is open to permit the air to come in. But when you're swallowing food, that's why when we eat, you have to eat without anyone bothering you, like making you laugh or because you can choke, right? Because swallowing is a coordinated muscular activity. The what you achieve with swallowing is you fold the epiglottis. You have muscles here, and when the muscles contract, contraction of the muscles will promote closing of your epiglottis right down backwards and downwards. The muscles contract, it will close the epiglottis backwards and downwards so that the food will go down the esophagus, not your trachea. Okay? So if it's air, the epiglottis will let the air down right here. Okay? Now we're tracing. Now in the meantime, you have your pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium that's preventing any germs, bacteria to further go down because it's easy to go down by gravity. It's very easy. So we need that pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium to trap them, slow them, and you have the cilia to brush it up. It's called an escalator actually, mucociliary escalator, just going up all the time. Okay. Now, look at this one. Okay. When you get to this part, I like to ask this in the test. This terminal part of first of all, the trachea. Look for this in your cat. I want you to feel it. You will notice that the trachea is made up of letter C-shaped cartilage, meaning it's discontinuous posteriorly in the back. Posterior to the trachea is your esophagus. So going down the esophagus is food. If your trachea is a continuous ring, every time you swallow it's going to be painful, called dysphagia. This means painful swallowing. You don't want that. So to solve that problem, your trachea is made up of hyaline cartilage only anteriorly. That solves the problem. And then posteriorly, what continues the wall of the trachea is what you call trachealis muscle, smooth muscle. So this one keeps your airway open, but this one allows you to swallow food pain-free. You understand? Then air keeps going. Look at this. Pay attention to this one. This has always been asked in your test bank. This terminal part of your trachea before it separates into right and left bronchus. Huh? Oh, this is called the carina. This is the terminal part. This is the most sensitive portion of your respiratory tree. It triggers the strongest cough reflex. Have you ever had that kind of cough? You can't control it, you just cough. It came from here. Why? Because after this one, you're going straight to your lungs. So remember that. That was always asked in the test bank, carina. What is the significance? It triggers the strongest cough reflex. What kind of defense is that? First line, second line, or third line of defense? Cough. First, second, third. First or second. First, it's actually first, okay? Okay, then look at this, the bronchus. Did you notice? You will notice that respiratory infections, pneumonia, most commonly affects the right than the left. Because anatomically, the right is more direct than the left. And also the bronchial opening is wider on the right than on the left. So you will always encounter more frequent right-sided infections than left-sided infections. So we continue. So the stratified ciliated air is going down. It's being purified, you notice. See the cilia, right? They're being purified. Then when you get to the alveolus, in case there's the pain in the butt, some bacteria that still reached your alveolus, you still have another defense here. You see that? Macrophages, they're in fact called dust cells. They do some dusting. So you have a police patrol there because you don't want the germs to land into your capillaries. You understand? So hopefully what really will land or end up in your blood vessels is just plain air. So on Monday, we're going to finish. We're going to talk about the mechanics of breathing, inhalation and exhalation. You're almost, my goodness, we're almost